Okay, so we're going on to our next segment, and we may go a little bit over time if that's all right for everyone. We're moving straight into our key non-state actors in the CBD and their dynamics. So we want to know, what are the constituencies in the CBDs that Indigenous peoples and local communities can engage with, and what are their dynamics? So our first speaker is, he's not able to join us today, but he has sent a video. Lakpa, I think many of you know Lakpa Sherpa from the AIPP. He is the co-chair of the International Indigenous Forum on Biodiversity, IFB, which we'll be talking about today. And he's also the Environment Program Coordinator at the Asia Indigenous Peoples Pact. So if we're ready to share the video of Lakpa.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lakpa Sherpa. I work for Asia Indigenous Peoples Pact, the regional network of Indigenous peoples organizations in Asia, and we work in 14 countries, and we have 46 members organizations. International Indigenous Forum on Biodiversity. So I would be sharing with you some of the work that we do at CBD, and also the way we are organized at the international level. So just a brief, IFB was established in 1996, as you can see. So it's been almost 3 decades, 30 years of the establishment of the IFB, and it continues to grow, to become more influential. And it's great to see a lot of organizations joining the IFB and contributing through their experiences from their respective communities and countries. So it's really, I would say, one of the oldest global forum of Indigenous peoples that continues to work for the rights and interests of Indigenous peoples, particularly focusing on the issue of biodiversity. Now, what is our objective? The objective of IFB is to facilitate and support the full and effective participation of Indigenous peoples in the CBD, to ensure that Indigenous peoples' rights and contributions to nature are recognized and respected during the negotiation and adoption of the CBD and its protocols decisions. And some of you who have been part of the IFB, and of course working with the ICCA, knows about the focus of the IFB, and just also inform that some of the local communities members are also contributing to the CBD through the process of IFB. So how does the structure or the organogram of the IFB looks like? So you can see on the left the regional coordinators from all the 7 regions. So we're from Africa, Latin American and the Caribbean, Asia, North America, Arctic, Russia, and then the Pacific, right? So that's so each region has a regional coordinator, and out of that 7 regional coordinators, we have 3 co-chairs of the IFB. And currently you can see we have co-chair from Asia, that's me, from Latin America, Ramiro Basin, and from Africa, Lucy Mulanke. And the good thing about the IFB is also there is a team of the secretariat that's there to support the co-chairs in organizing the caucus of the IFB and responding to all the coordination matters for the effective engagement of the caucus members. The internal organizations of the IFB, like I said, there's a big number of organizations being part of the IFB, and currently the estimation is around 500 indigenous peoples organizations from all the 7 regions of the world. And like other processes in the UN, IFB also organizes 1 to 2 days prep meeting prior to the official meetings of the CBD. And the timing of our caucus, it happens every morning from 8 to 10 a.m. And when necessary, IFB also organizes an online caucus, and that usually takes place from 8 to 10 a.m. Montreal time, and mostly the online meetings takes place on Saturday. One of the unique thing about IFB is also we mobilize the members of our caucus members to the establishment of working groups. So there is like a dedicated team or dedicated working group that looks into the specific issues or matters at the CBD. So just to give you an example, the way the working group processes the discussion is more like once the working group is established, let's say, for example, there is a working group on conservation, let's say target 3, right? So the working group actually revisits if there is any previous position that IFB has. The working group members also analyzes the draft document, for example, and then based on the deliberations of the working group members, they would make some textual proposals and recommendations for the caucus to consider. And the second step of that would be like making a presentation from the working group members among the bigger caucus, right? Because usually the working group members consist of those that are interested or have specific experiences from their respective countries or communities, so that they can contribute in analyzing the documents. So once they present to the caucus members will give feedback and guidance in terms of setting the recommendations of IFB. So once that is done, the working group members uses that as a IFB positions to advocate and lobby with the CBD parties. And those who were at COP15 knows very well the way the working group works at IFB. And we have WhatsApp group for each working group. So there are several working groups, and if any one from the ICCA Consortium is coming to COP16 and is keen to contribute, let us know. We'd be happy to put you into the working groups that is already established there. So what are our strategies and actions? And of course, one of the consistent work that IFB has done is really to do media outreach, and also, of course, outreach to the parties and other relevant actors. And one of the way that we do that is consistently issuing press releases, and also followed by a press conference. So there is a lot of interactions with the media as well through the press conferences. We also organize series of side events, and also there are specific dedicated spaces for IFB, especially at the COPs, where there are series of side events and movie screening and dialogues that happens at the international level. Of course, formal and informal dialogues with CBD parties that has happened and will continue to take place as required. And like I said, the IFB working groups are the one closely monitoring the negotiations and making interventions, and also they report to the caucus every day in the morning. Sometimes there is also a need for us to use different approach in terms of telling what we want to say. And one of that approach is also we do a peaceful protest. So there's a gathering of indigenous peoples and also the support groups that becomes part of that protest. And you can see on the right, in the photos, that's the silent protest that we did at COP15. That was during the negotiations on Target 3. So we also meet with the COP Bureau and Executive Secretary of the CBD when there is some urgent issues or matters needing attentions from them from IFB. Series of online meetings, IFB meetings, we have done that a lot, and many of you are aware that prior to the COP15, there were like almost every week online meetings of the IAFB, and this is more to have enough time for us to deliberate, get proposals from all the 7 regions of the world, and really have that consolidated and united proposals from the IAFB. And as many of you who has been part of the negotiations, preparations is very, very important when we engage at the CBD. There are so many documents that we need to go through and analyze. So organizing an online meeting like this is very useful to consolidate our proposals. And of course, the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and I'm sure this has been discussed already in the previous session, so I will not talk about this. So yeah, we're preparing as IAFB. We have started preparing for the COP16, and we have had series of online meetings, and also in preparations for this World Summit on traditional knowledge related to biodiversity. And it took place in Bogota, Colombia from 26 to 29 August. And one of the focus of this World Summit was really on the new program of work on Article 8J and its institutional arrangement. And many of you have been part of the negotiation last year on this one, and also the discussions that IAFB led online this year. Indigenous peoples are strongly advocating that we are the permanent partners of the CBD, and there is a need for CBD parties to step up and establish a permanent subsidiary body, just like the SBI and Substar. So that is also one of the common masses that are basically supported by everybody, right? So there is a report that is coming out of this summit. Would be happy to share if ICCA colleagues wants to have a look on that. And just to say that your ICCA colleagues from Latin America were there, and I also got a chance to interact with them. Yeah, and also learn from the work that they're doing on the ground. Yeah, so in preparations for that World Summit, Asia also undertook a consultation on 13th and 14th August. And then, of course, you can see on the left the people who contributed there, and of course, Junrubis were there from the ICCA. And of course, you can see on the left some of the agenda that we had, right? So we had a discussion on the NBSAP engagement, and the new presentation on the new program of work and its institutional arrangement. On the second day of the consultation, focused more on target 3 discussions, monitoring framework of the KMGVF, and discussion on SEI. And just to say that Junrubis also attended, and Assami also from the ICCA Consortium were part of that consultation. So, I mean, that is one thing that in Asia, we are consistently doing regional consultations before we go to the regional, international meetings. And yeah, so at COP16, as usual, there will be 2 days prep meeting of IAFB, and that it's scheduled to take place from 19 to 20. We yet to know the details on the venue. We'd be happy to share that through the ICCA colleagues as well, to those who are coming at Cali. So that's brief information from my end about International Indigenous Forum on Biodiversity. If you have any questions relating to that, please feel free to give it to June or Asami or other colleagues. I'd be happy to respond to that. And I wish you all a very fruitful sessions. And also, I'm aware that tomorrow you'll be discussing also on the strategy for COP16. So all the best. Thank you.
Well, Lakpa isn't here with us today, so we thank him in absentia. And I would like to go straight to Sefa. Sefa, are you ready? So Sefa Tali, she is a member of the steering committee of the Global Youth Biodiversity Network, so also a very key non-state actor in the CBD process. So Sefa, when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, June. Hi, everyone. My name is Sefa. I'm no longer on the steering committee. I'm currently the policy co-coordinator for the Global Youth Biodiversity Network, which I'll be introducing to you today. But I'm also an honorary member of the ICCA Consortium and advocacy officer for an NGO here in the Philippines called Partners for Indigenous Knowledge Philippines. So I have many hats, but today I'll be sharing with you a bit more about youth in the Convention on Biological Diversity. So first, maybe actually before I go to that, I do want to say that youth are a very important group to consider when it comes to biodiversity, especially as a group, as one of the groups that are most vulnerable to biodiversity loss, but also as key critical vital actors on biodiversity, and as often finding ourselves also on the front lines of many movements for the environment, right? And of course, Indigenous youth also have very key roles to play in our communities, but also have very important perspectives to bring to decision-making spaces like the CBD. So to introduce first the Global Youth Biodiversity Network, we are a network of young people and youth organizations across the globe that are acting together to support and accelerate action towards living in harmony with nature. And we were founded in 2010. Given has been recognized as the international coordination platform for youth participation in the Convention on Biological Diversity since 2012. So I'll share a bit more about our community and what we do. So first, this is kind of where we are found. Given has now more than 50 national chapters and 4 and counting regional chapters that are working on the ground in their countries for biodiversity. So something really important that Georgie mentioned is that biodiversity work is really on the ground. So this is for us a very important part of the work, is making sure that we are bringing perspectives from the grassroots to the policy spaces, but also bringing the gains from the policy spaces to the ground and ensuring that we are acting in the communities where we live. So here you can see some of the chapters that we have, which has grown organically since a few years back and has grown very fast, actually. And we do focus our work on youth-led action in 4 key areas of work, I suppose, including empowerment and capacity building, consultations and policy advocacy, mobilization, campaigning, and narrative change, and also alliance building. So in terms of youth-led empowerment and capacity building, we put a lot of effort into making knowledge products, but also conducting youth-led capacity building workshops or youth capacity building workshops in partnership with our allies. For example, a few years back, we did one in partnership with the ICCA Consortium as well. And one of our recent capacity building efforts has been the International Youth Conference on Biodiversity, which very recently concluded in Yokohama, Japan, which was happening actually almost the same time as the traditional knowledge meeting in Colombia. So aside from that, we do consultations and policy advocacy. This is largely the work that I and one other colleague are coordinating. So in terms of conducting youth consultations to identify youth priorities and building shared positions, participating in the CBD negotiations, and also coordinating young people's engagement with other actors, including governments. So just some photos of some that we've been conducting towards the adoption of the Global Biodiversity Framework, including many virtual ones throughout COVID, actually. We continue to do consultations on relevant issues, including on youth-responsive monitoring, environment, peace, and conflict, for example, biodiversity and health, resource mobilization, and other issues. and we represent and coordinate youth voices in CBD meetings, playing a coordination role. So I'll share a bit more about what in particular we'll be doing in COP16. But in general, there are many different spaces to engage, and given usually tries to bring young people together, including Indigenous youth, to kind of act in a coordinated manner in these spaces. Third, we do mobilization and campaigning in terms of, so this is part of our work to really kind of shift narratives and raise broad awareness about the biodiversity crisis and a deep understanding also of what is needed. So this is one of our past campaigns called the Stop the Same campaign, which was a push for transformative change, and our current campaign on youth actions for the implementation of the Global Biodiversity Framework called Youth into Action. And fourth is in terms of alliance building, we create spaces and conditions for like-minded youth to come together, but also try to coordinate and align with our allies, of course, including Indigenous peoples, local communities, women's organizations, grassroots NGOs, and also forming partnerships with a broad range of other actors. So that's an overview of the work that we do, both on the ground and in the CBD itself. I wanted to take a few minutes to share some resources that we have because it might be helpful for the participants of this call. The first one is CBD in a nutshell. So this is the guidebook that Gibbon has developed to navigate the CBD process. It's very good. I highly recommend it. It's how I learned about the CBD. It provides a very graphic and very colorful, youth-friendly material for navigating the CBD. It's really a material produced by youth and for youth, but many party delegates also kind of say that they use it to train their own negotiators. And of course, those of us in this call, it might also be helpful. So it's available on our website here. I'm also sharing this guide developed by the Human Rights and Biodiversity Working Group. Sorry, I might be speaking too fast. I'm sorry. Which is called From Agreements to Actions, which is a guide to applying a human rights-based approach to GBF implementation. And also this guide from the EMG on human rights-based approach in NBSAPs. Gibbon is also working on a handbook on youth and NBSAPs, which we can share soon if it's of relevance for you, with youth recommendations for NBSAPs and some guidance for young people in engaging in the NBSAP process. So coming towards the end now, so looking forward, at least from the adoption of the GBF, we are really working on these things towards just harnessing what young people have to offer in terms of implementing the biodiversity plan, and also being guided by the diverse values that we have, and applying these to our work in policy and implementation. So this includes participating in the NBSAP updating process and ensuring that national targets are equitable and effective, in making sure that we have youth-responsive monitoring and indicators, moving towards rights-based implementation, continuing to be guided by intergenerational equity and fostering intergenerational collaboration, applying transformative education in the work that we do, and of course, supporting and recognizing youth-led implementation of the GBF targets. So, to end, I just wanted to share this information for our plans at COP16. We will be soon also doing similar capacity building sessions for the public and for those joining COP16. We have a youth policy team that's also ready to engage in the negotiations and support others who might want to do the same. We have, similar to the IFB, youth coordination, morning coordination meetings to keep aligned throughout the meeting. We have a youth summit that is being planned prior to COP16 and a youth pavilion space where young people can come together and share perspectives. And finally, youth-led side events also, which we can share when that information becomes available. So thank you so much, and back to you, June.
Thank you so much, Stefa. That's such incredible work. And I believe that is true. Publications by youth for youth is actually used a lot for adults because, it's very clear. I will leave the questions for you after the next speaker. So I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Amelia. Are you ready, Amelia? So we're very lucky to have Amelia today. She's normally based in Mexico, but she's able to join us for today's session. And she's currently, getting it correct, the coordinator, right, Amelia, for the Women's Caucus in the CBD. So Amelia, when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, June and colleagues from the ICCA. It is a pleasure to be here and to be sharing about the CBD Women's Caucus. You will notice that there are many similarities about how these different caucuses work, mainly because, we attend similar objectives, right? So the form follows the function, and since we have these similar objectives, we organize really complementarily. Let me start by sharing that the CBD Women Caucus is the global platform recognized as well as the Women's Major Group in the Biodiversity Convention. So it's this parallel space where women from different backgrounds can also participate directly into the CBD processes. The Women's Caucus is an independent, self-organized, and permanent and sustainable coalition within the framework of the CBD, driven by a collective ownership, a shared leadership, and collaborative approach. I'm going to share a bit about how was our structure and how do we work in order to honor this shared leadership and collective ownership. Our purpose is similar to the IFB and the Given, but focused on women and girls, right? Our purpose is to serve as the global platform for women and girls to advocate for their rights in biodiversity-related decision-making processes at all levels. Similar to what we have heard, we consider that the international space is one of the spaces where this advocacy and influence should be done, but that without a direct influence and action at the local and national level, this process would be incomplete. Also, our purpose is the promotion of gender justice and the empowerment of women and girls in all the diversity to participate in the different policy processes. And I also loved how Georgie explained the CBD as a living process, because that enables all of us to be part of the creation, of being part of that life and how it's gonna be evolve in the next years. That is not something static. The caucus, sorry, we went backwards. We have 5 focus areas. It started first with this dynamics of influencing the international process, but it was rather early than later that we realized that advocating wasn't enough, or that just a group of people being able to participate at international spaces wasn't enough. So the work and focus of the caucus has evolved into turning into a movement, into a space where different organizations and individuals could find a space for them to grow collectively and to learn from each other. So we are, apart from the policy and advocacy, focused also in the community building of ensuring that the CBD caucus is, Women Caucus is a safe space for all individuals working on human rights and biodiversity action, with a particular focus on women's rights. We also focus a lot on awareness and outreach, because there is still a big gap in knowledge, but also in information sharing about what are the relations or the interconnections in between women's rights, human rights, and biodiversity policy. We also have the area of capacity development, both at the internal and also with allies. I will share later in the chat a link to a recent training that we conducted towards COP16 that might be also of interest for some of you that maybe are getting familiar with the process or that will be attending COP16. You could find some interesting information over there. And also, as a part of trying to close the gap on the knowledge and the evidence about the positive and impact dynamics in between gender roles and the gendered contributions and biodiversity crisis, we are also developing knowledge products that could help both the decision making and also the evidence-based advocacy of our members. How are we organized? Also, our structure has evolved since we were founded in 2008. The caucus has lived during different periods, sometimes dormant, sometimes more active, but finally last year, after 1 year of internal consultations, we developed our own statutes, identifying the governance and the structure of how this platform is going to work. And we agreed as members that we're going to be like all together as members. We defined a certain criteria. Mostly the main factor to decide if you could be or not is that if you are part of the civil society or community-based organizations, opposed to if you work for a government or the private sector, or if you have any potential conflict of interest of being part of the caucus. Within the membership, we select our board, which is the decision-making body, and we have also a coordination that deals with the more day-to-day aspects of the network. Our board currently is consistent of 4 individuals: Anna, Cecilia, Ruth, and Sarah. And according to our statutes, this board works during 2 years with the possibility of renewing for another period. And at COP16, we are aiming to launch the process for selecting the new board. And actually, to learning from the IFB process, we are aiming to expand it to the 7 regions, biocultural regions of the world, to have 1 representative of each. The coordination also, the ideal that, as according to our statutes, would be consistent of a group of coordinators that deal with the 5 areas of work, but because some constraints regarding funding and other challenges, well, the coordination is relying currently only on myself and many other colleagues that are volunteering into taking the lead on the different actions. Since 2008, that is the date we recognized as our foundation, we have grown into plus than 600 members, representing 250 organizations, and from a bit more than 100 countries. We are not millions like the given, but really effective hundreds, I could say. Here we try to make a map to trace where our members are based, and we are really happy to see that most of the regions are represented. And well, I already shared a bit about the criteria for being part of the caucus, which is that is open for individuals either acting on their behalf or representing community-based organizations or civil society organizations that come from a human rights-based approach to biodiversity, and could be, or it's not that you have to focus on gender justice or women's rights, but if you already have a human rights approach, that is just enough to be part of the caucus. And some of the achievements that the caucus has been in collaboration with other actors able to get, well, since 2008, the adoption of the first gender plan of action, and the recognition of the Women's Caucus in the different processes. And I won't explain this in detail because I know we're already a bit behind schedule, but this is just to show how the caucus has been able to participate and influence also the CBD processes and decisions, and that the recognition and the understanding of our role has has evolved and has grown also, right? Like we have currently many more allies, and including observers, organizations, but also within the decision makers, no, the parties and the secretariat. Just briefly, how the plans are looking like for COP16, in case you're gonna be there and you would like to also join the caucus as a space for you to take your priorities and demands forward. We pretty much work similar to IFB in terms of having our policy working groups according to people's interest and expertise. We meet several times before each of the meetings to work collectively on the negotiation documents, identify which are going to be our key messages, our key demands, and turn them into a more accessible product to be shared with the wider public, but also turning them into our policy positions. These working groups are the ones meeting with the delegates to do the lobby, the advocacy, that all of this before COP. So this is already happening. And if you would like to join us, you're more than welcome, and also to jump directly into these policy working groups. During COP, these policy working groups are also the ones leading the influence and the advocacy. Like the idea is for those that worked in the analysis and the preparations of our positions, for them to be the ones delivering the statements, following the negotiations, intervening during contact groups, and also meeting with focal points or other actors, being the voice, yeah, like the ones participating in the press conferences, in interviews, or whichever opportunity we have to amplify our policy demands. It's made through by the policy groups. Similar to other caucuses, we have our preparatory meeting one day before, and daily meetings during mornings to exchange key intel on how the negotiations are evolving, and if there are some flags to be raised or something that has to be brought to attention of the collective. Just let me finish with this slide about the events that we are going to co-organize during the COP16. The first row is about the side events that we all are waiting for answers, so hopefully we get them all approved. But I would like to bring the attention to these events, the high-level events. One is on the Gender Day that will happen on the 25th of October, and a high-level gender breakfast. We also have this other space for everyone to use and showcase their work, which is the Women's Caucus Hub, and similar to what happened during COP15. The idea is for that to be a more interactive and open space for people to organize conversations, to launch materials, to present movies, audiovisuals, or just to use as a space for knowledge, information exchange, and showcasing the work. I already explained about the policy, the daily meetings, the prep meetings, and sorry, this went all the way back. I just want to double check. There's no, yeah. Last slide is if you want to join us, you can do it as individual or as organization. I will share the links to do so in the chat, and really happy to be here and able to hear if you have any question. Thank you so much, Yoon and colleagues, for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Amelia, for your profound work and also very careful work. And I have to say, I can testify that the Women's Caucus is so welcoming to new members. I remember the first time we met Amelia and Cecilia, they're always excited to see new people in the caucus. And there's always food for some reason, at least the meetings I've attended. So I highly encourage, if you haven't been part of the Women's Caucus, do go visit them. They're very welcoming. So I'd like to open the floor now for questions for both Amelia and Sefa. Sefa, if you're ready. If anyone have any questions about how they can participate better, I appreciate, Amelia, you talked about how it's open for anyone who's interested in not just gender justice, but human rights-based approach. But of course, it's a very safe space for women and non-binaries, I suppose. Does anyone have any questions, how they can get more involved? I actually, Sefa, do you also have an action zone? Did I miss that? A youth caucus hub that people could also be part of, like the Women's Caucus Hub?
Yeah, I think there's a plan for a youth pavilion, aside from having a regular kind of youth meeting room where young people gather. There is a space for a pavilion with smaller events that I guess I don't have the details, but we can share that soon.
Okay, cool. But so the youth is also always organizing actions, and people can also get involved, right? You don't have to be, you can just support, obviously, the youth.
For sure, yeah.
And also, Amelia, so how do we get involved if you want to be part of this, the Women's Caucus Hub, if you want to share materials, or do we get in touch with you? What's the best way to organize this?
Yes, there's going to be an internal call for the caucus members to provide not like a proposal, like 2-3 lines of why or what do they want to share, just so we are able to organize a program, not like which sessions could be more related to each other and so on. Yeah, it was something that we did already for the last COP, and proved to be a really attractive space. So if people would like to use the space, first we will encourage them to join the caucus, because it's a space mostly for members. But if there's a collaboration, also you could reach directly through the email. Let me put it on the chat.
Thank you. And you also have your WhatsApp group is also pretty lively. It's really worth for people interested in gender justice to get involved too. So there was a question on the chat by Cindy, and Sefa, thank you for replying. Is there any information to join the youth network for young folks? And she's just added the link. So thank you for that. And thank you for the email. Thank you, Amelia. Is there any more questions or also comments? I mean, I really appreciate both of the spaces that you've provided along with the IFB, but you provide also a different type of, participation that's also focused and also welcoming. And in some ways, even though the issues are very political, but it also feels not so political to join your spaces, I imagine.
Yes, at least in the caucus, we are in the Women's Caucus, we are trying to work on a guideline, not like on how we develop and position ourselves collectively, and perhaps when we want, because there's no agreement within us. And I would think about these caucuses as also living processes, not like it is a highly political space. We come to those spaces advocating for what we consider just or what we consider should be done. No? So all of us, we feel strongly about our positions, but definitely there's always space to remain professional, remain empathetic, and remain like respectful for each other. No? And that is one thing that the caucus, coming from different perspectives, feminist perspectives, we aim to keep this space as safe as possible, understanding this as an open but respectful space to everyone.
Thank you. I see, Jing, you have a question for either Sefa or Amelia?
Yes, I do. Thanks for the opportunity, June. One thing that really worked at COP15 is when each of the caucuses supported each other on different points. Obviously, not all of the points, but I think that was very useful, and it showed the power of the social movement. So my question is that, are there formal venues for the different major groups, well, at least the like-minded major groups, to coordinate on positions? So that's one question. And then the second question also, to coordinate on common positions, but also strategize to address some of the tricky tensions within each caucus. And, for example, for Indigenous peoples, you know very well that we're having some internal issues around Indigenous peoples and local communities, and the different groupings that have, specific sets of rights. And so, would you have thoughts or reflections on spaces where we can collaborate both on common positions and strategize on tensions within our caucuses? Thanks.
Thank you, Jing. That's a very important, vital question, and really hits on the main issues that are, targeting our caucuses right now. Sefa, Amelia, would you like to respond to Jing's comments or questions?
I'll try. So thank you, Jing. That's absolutely true. And of course, there are many issues wherein really, as the three caucuses, we really do have common pushes in terms of advocacy. I'm trying to think of how it has worked in the past, at least in practice, right? But it has mostly been in terms of the relationships, at least that we have, and the common understanding and the trust that we have as caucuses, to coordinate that and knowing who to ask about what. But of course, having formal or informal ways to coordinate would be really good. One space I can think of has been the Human Rights and Biodiversity Working Group, which is not just, of course, between the caucuses, but is a coalition of organizations that are working on human rights and biodiversity. And that has been actually a pretty good way to coordinate on human rights issues, which we all work on. It is being coordinated by SweetBio, but organizations can kind of join this group, and I feel like that is continuing to be useful. In terms of other ways to coordinate, we can brainstorm on that. I think that is, of course, really helpful. I, of course, kind of, because I don't know, this is just a reflection on my side personally, of course, because I also represent an Indigenous organization. It has been very helpful to be also receiving in real time the updates from the IFB, even while I coordinate the youth work. Same with the Women's Caucus. So yeah, I don't know if Amelia has ideas, especially for COP16. Thanks.
Yes, just to complement a bit, because I agree with Cefa's reflections, and also thank you so much, Jean, for the question. That has been something on the back of our minds, of all of us, I guess, for a while. Like we have coordinated mostly informally, and because the relationships that, at least the ones on the negotiation spaces we have, in between caucuses, but definitely this perhaps has to be more organized and thought, and in an inclusive way for more members of the different caucuses, because for example, when we meet in the rooms with Avi, with Cefa, not the different negotiators on the rooms, we kind of react also depending on what is going on the room. But there are other conversations that deeper conversations that we need to take to have together, like this point that Jing mentioned about the terminology that is not only on terminology, but that implies many other positions and possibilities, and that is an example, but there could be others, about the DSI, the digital sequence information approaches, the EFSAs, the marine protected areas, like there are different topics that we have different or slightly different positions and tensions. Like, I think we also need to name them and identify them, but to be able still and because it's not like something that tear us apart, but actually like will allow us to understand better where we are standing and how can we keep collaborating. So I agree that this is something that we need to move forward. And Christina is here, and I just want to acknowledge that she has been one of the voices on our back, on the back of our mind, saying this has to be done, because she sits in different places and see that this collaboration has to be more clear.
Thank you for that. And actually, we do have Christina, so she'll be moderating a very important session for us today and tomorrow, where we can hopefully talk about this. Amelia, I know you're busy, but you're definitely welcome to participate if you have the time. Cefa, you'll be involved anyways as our honorary member. So yes, I think we'll be, Jing, I hope you also have time tomorrow as well, because hopefully we'll be bringing these questions as well in the ways that we can figure out and learn how to engage in the CBD process. I like, Amelia, you talked about like the tensions. I mean, yes, we have to name the tensions. And as you had said, I mean, but fundamentally, we are also, we have the same goal. So just that our distinctions are very clear and important. But I think we also have to remember our shared goals and the solidarity, that we can't do this alone. We can't do this, just IFB. It has to be with the Women's Caucus, with the Youth Caucus, with the NGO Caucus, and so forth, and with supporting allies. So thank you so much. I'm quite conscious of time. So I thank you again, Amelia and Cefa. It's been wonderful. And also Lakpa in his absence. It's been wonderful hearing more about the work. And thank you as well for everyone for staying on. I think I would like to hand it over to Asami to wrap it up for us. If there's any questions you may have with Cefa or Amelia, please have it in the chat, or hopefully they can join us perhaps tomorrow. But Asami, if you're ready.
Thank you, June. Yeah, I think I'll go with the announcement first before we go with the summary and the wrap up. So for our announcement tomorrow we will have the day 2 or the second session of this webinar, and the topic is going to be COP16, what is going to happen in COP16 and what are the strategies of engagement. So we have invited two speakers, two resource persons to talk about what is going to happen in COP16 and what are the strategies of engagement. We have also invited colleagues to give us updates on COP16 issues, such as in resource mobilization in Article 8J and the new program of work. Another announcement is on Friday, we're going to for the members of the ICCA Consortium Southeast Asia, we're going to have our second internal meeting for our strategy and how we're going to involve ourselves and how we're going to engage in COP16 in Cali on October. So we hope to see you there, and we hope to hear your contributions on how we can elevate the issues in the region in the international space. All right, so for today's session, we went through very important topics. Georgie and Maurizio gave us a glimpse. They gave us a very good explanation of what the CBD is, what the CBD process is, and also they gave us, Maurizio gave us an explanation of a glimpse of the KMGBF and how Indigenous peoples and local communities are affected and how we can be engaged in the plan. We were also introduced to the key non-state actors in the CBD process. We have the IIFB, which was presented by LACPA. We also have the Global Youth Biodiversity Network presented by CEFA, and the CBD Women Caucus that is presented by Amelia. And personally, I've learned a lot. I'm new in the CBD process, and I've learned a lot from today's discussion. I know that the topics discussed by our resource persons are really broad, and they were able to summarize their topics in the very short time that we gave them, and we are very grateful for them for doing that. So tomorrow, we are set to learn more about the CBD and COP16 and how we're going to engage in that. So that's it for summary and wrap up. Back to you, June.
Thank you, Asami. That was very useful and a great summary. I'd like to also reiterate my thanks to Georgie, Maurizio, Lakpa, Amelia, and also Sefa. And also the contributors, people who had questions, Jing, Gordon, and Hania, thank you so much for your questions. And also to thank our team and translators. Thank you, WGII Indonesia, for supporting us to have our translators for our Indonesian members. And also we have the work on, and the team, Asami, Cindy, Gordon, and Dazzle for pulling this all together. So thank you, everyone. And we're looking forward for 2 more days of continuous work. And yeah, we're looking forward to tomorrow. So thank you as well for engaging for the last 2.5 hours. And we're looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow. So we're going to say goodbye. You can turn off your cameras or just say bye.
Bye, thank
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye, Amelia.